Good evening, we are live. Welcome to this live Ask Me Anything About Property Investing with myself, Saj Hussain. This is a live Q&A session that I run on a Monday at 8:30 p.m. I'm here for about half an hour, really to help you with your property investing journey, answer your questions for you. So if you've got a question for me, put it into the comment section. We're live on various different platforms. That's Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, I think, or Instagram shortly. We're just sorting that out, and on Twitter as well. So wherever you're watching this, put a question into the comment section, and I'll do my very best to get that question answered. As I say, I don't know everything there is to know about property, but I certainly got a huge amount of experience. I'm very happy to share that with you, and that's why I allocate this time on a Monday at 8:30 in the evening to really help you get further faster in your property investing journey. So when the questions appear, I'll pop them up on the screen here, and I'll just work my way through them in the order that they appear. Just put your questions in. We're just setting up some tech over there, so I'm just concerned that all this doesn't topple in a moment. Hopefully it'll be good. We'll be good to go. So just say hi on whatever platform you're watching first of all, just so I know this is working okay. You can see me okay, you can hear me okay. Just give me a quick hi to let me know that's the case, and I'm not talking to myself, and we'll get started in just a few moments. So just check. Okay, so let me know you can hear me okay. I've not got many comments come through, just so I know that I'm not talking to myself. Just say a quick hi on the comment section, whichever platform you're watching on, and we'll get started in a few moments. And before we start with the questions, I'll just share with you an experience that I've had this week with a property I'm listing. I've got a property that we've just finished refurbing. When I say just finished, we've got a little bit of work left to finish, literally the grass to go into the back and a bit of tidying, cleaning. Professional cleaners will go in this weekend and be ready to sell. So this property is looking fantastic, amazing condition, ready to list on the market. So I had the agents around this week. And the way I tend to do this is when I'm selling a property is we ask the agents to come literally one after the other. We get all the local agents in that particular postcode to turn up, have a look at the property, give us their opinions, and really give us their views on the market as well. So on the property, I'm getting some highs now. Good evening. So thank you so much for responding. So I know you can see and hear me. Okay, so I'll get on to questions. If you've got a question, make sure you put it in the comment section, and I'll just work my way through them as I see them in a few moments. So the agents gave me a range of prices on the property, which is pretty much expected, and I'll do a vlog on that soon. I think maybe later this week or next week we'll do some filming of that property once it's finished. In fact, let me know you're watching my vlogs and how you find them. Are you finding them useful or insightful? Are you learning anything from them? Are they entertaining or they're a complete waste of time? Just let me know. Give me your feedback on those. I'd love to know that. So on this particular property, we'll do some filming very soon. I'll share that with you, the finished property. So they gave me a range of prices, which, as I said, I was kind of expecting, and it was not that far off from where I thought it was going to be numbers-wise. But what I was more interested in was their view of the market. How do they see the market right now? What will happen in the coming weeks and months in the property market? And interesting enough, what a number of the agents said to me is that there are not so many buyers actually out there looking right now, which I was quite surprised about. I'm thinking, well, pretty much everything you see listed is being sold very quickly. The for sale signs are going up, and the sold board is following soon after. But why is it that actually there's not so many buyers? Well, what they shared with me is that there's not actually so many buyers in the marketplace right now as there were maybe some months ago. But those buyers that are in the marketplace, those ones that are looking, are actually quite serious. They're serious buyers. They're ready to go. And what that means is they'll be able to complete on transactions quickly. They get their offers in fairly quickly as well. They're organized with their paperwork. In fact, just on that point, a number of the agents also said is that what they're doing is they're pre-vetting the potential viewers of the property before they take them out. And normally the normal process has been that the potential buyer registers to have a look at the property. They go and have a look. If they decide to put an offer in, then they show their proof of funds, i.e. their deposit, or if it's a cash purchase, bank statements for that. or the mortgage in principle being approved. All this information normally is when you're going to make an offer. But what the agents are doing is actually they're getting this information up front before people are actually going out to view the properties. That means the buyers or the potential buyers are more qualified than they would have been previously. So although they're getting fewer people through the door looking at property, those that are coming through are more serious and the offers are coming through very quickly. So the market is still quite active, it's still quite heated, things are selling very quickly. However, some of them shared their concern about the market, which is there's still a lot of uncertainty in the marketplace, which is also my view. And I think in a few months' time, which is what they were also sharing with me, that the market will probably change. We'll see a slowdown in the marketplace, and a lot of this is going to be linked to unemployment. If unemployment starts rising, then we'll start seeing prices dropping and the property market will change dramatically. So I hope that was useful. I just thought I'd share that with you, something I've been doing. I said this week is actually last week that I was out with the agents doing this. So what I want to do now is I'm going to jump onto the questions that you're putting in the platforms. If you've just joined us, if you want your property question answered, make sure you put it in the comment section on whichever platform you're watching it. We're live on various different platforms. That's Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. So just put your comments or your question in there, and I'll come on to do my best to answer that in the time that we have today. So a few people saying hi, thank you so much. George, Jamie, Adam, Nasser, Mohammed, Shade, good to see you guys here. So we'll start. First question I got is from Nasser, who I know Nasser was on my Inner Circle mentoring program previously. Good to see you here, Nasser. Your question is great to have your time to answer questions. What's your current view on the property market? Time to buy or better to wait? So some of that I've just been talking about, but really just to finish off on when's a good time to buy. I think if you're purchasing a home, and I guess most people watching this right now probably not, they're probably property investors, but if you're purchasing a home, then I'd be less driven by the prices. I'd be more focused on the type of property I want to move on to, what's available. I'd keep looking, and I'd be open to purchasing something right now as a home, even if I think the market's going to change. Because the reality is you've probably got a home that you're going to sell. You'll achieve a certain figure for it, and then you'll move up to something else or downgrade, whatever it might be. And if you're right at the beginning of your property journey right now, in terms of first property like a home that you'll be purchasing, then you'll also have some challenges around deposits requested by lenders are now higher than they were before. Because when you're doing a transaction like that, it's more driven by emotion. It's not really about the numbers in terms of how much more it might be worth in 6 months or a year's time, because you're purchasing your home, you may not be looking to sell it again soon. However, as a property investor, I'd say really just depend on your strategy, depend on what it is that you're doing, what it is that you are looking for. So for instance, we do a lot of HMOs. So if we're looking for potential HMO properties, I'm always looking, because I'm going to be thinking about what the end value of that property is going to be. And that will be based on the income I create. So the ultimate valuation will be based on the income. That'll be less dependent on what happens in the economy, apart from the renting the rooms. But if I've got 6, 7 rooms, I'm confident I'm going to be able to rent those, even if the market is a little bit quieter. On the other hand, if I was looking to purchase something to, say, renovate and sell, I wouldn't be averse to looking at something right now. However, I think it's important that you're building into your numbers the potential of a change in the market. So let's say I was speaking to one of my mentees earlier today on my one-to-one mentoring call, which I often do on a Monday. And we were having a conversation about looking at a development and the potential of a change in price in the market. Because if you're doing a development project, by the time you've gone through planning, you've done the build, you're either coming to sell or refinance, the market may have changed completely. But if you're building in, say, a 25 or 30% profit margin, which often you do on developments, and if the market changes, it drops by, say, 25%, well, you may not lose the shirt off your back, but you certainly won't be making any money. So you've got to make sure you've got a bit of a buffer built in or an alternative strategy. So if you're buying to sell and you find that the house prices are maybe fallen, you're not being able to achieve what you want, you might not make the profit you were looking to, or if you're having to resort to switching it to a buy-to-let, i.e. keeping it for a while, then you've got to look at how much you're going to be able to borrow against that property. It's not necessarily driven on value, because it's also about the rental you'll be able to achieve on it as well. So I hope that helps. NASA is a little bit of my thoughts on the current marketplace. But as I said, it's very unpredictable right now. I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the marketplace for sure. And someone said to me earlier today, "What's my crystal ball saying?" And I said, my crystal ball is very foggy. I've not really. It's really difficult to kind of gauge where the market is. There's some signs there of what's happening, but it, I think we're certainly in interesting times. So next question is from Adam C. I love the profile picture there, Adam. Is service accommodation a good strategy to get into right now? So, I think services accommodation is a good strategy to do for cash flow. It's a great strategy to create more income from property than you would, say, from a buy-to-let or, say, from a HMO. Of course, before, taking a blanket opinion like that, yeah, it's a great strategy, everybody should rush and do it. I think there's more to it than that. You need to think about why you may want to do that strategy. How's it going to suit you? Because it can be time intensive as well. You may need to set up the systems, and depending on where you want to scale it to, you might need to bring other people on board to help you with it as well. So all these factors need to be considered when you're thinking about any strategy to be using as your primary investing strategy or cash making strategy, as it were. And I think it may be that your question is alluding to because of the change in the market recently. So, for example, I've just actually, my very last vlog that went out on Friday was focused purely on service accommodation. I think it's 40 odd minutes. So I'd encourage you to watch that. If you do a search for my vlogs on YouTube, I think it's vlog number 6. I've got a full session just on service accommodation. But with service accommodation, you've got to think about who your tenant type is. So those that have really suffered badly from service accommodation recently during the pandemic, particularly are those that are focused on, say, the tourists and people that travel and leisure, because of the lockdown, people were not really traveling and being able to get to places, and it meant that those businesses were struggling, those service accommodation businesses, but they couldn't get their guests that they had. But even those that were, say, doing, say, normal corporate type bookings, you had Airbnb just shut down all the bookings. That means people couldn't book on. So as long as you were open to doing alternative marketing strategies, and you took the initiative to find guests in a different way, for example, NHS staff, which is one of the things that we focused on, it meant that your business was still going to survive. It may not be thriving during that time, but it's still going to survive. So yes, I think some of the issues that we've had recently have been very, very unusual, and I think service accommodation is a strategy you can make good money from, and I think it's important to consider it. But to think about all the other factors as well, such as how much time, money, experience, knowledge, etc., that you're bringing to this particular strategy. So let me know if you find this useful. Okay, so next question, Tahid brought. My apologies on the pronunciation. I'm sure I pronounced it incorrectly in the past as well when you've asked questions. Good evening, Saj. How do you find a mentor when you're starting? So I give you my experience of what I've done with regards to mentors. So I run my own mentoring program, and what I do is purely mentoring as opposed to training or coaching. And I think the difference between the three things is training is really the delivery of information. These are my views on what these particular things are. So training is the information, the learning, and the how-to. Coaching is helping and supporting somebody even when the coach doesn't necessarily have the experience of doing that particular strategy, because it's more reflective. It's about you and how you find the answers. It's helping you find your own answers as opposed to giving you direct guidance. And mentoring, which is more what I focus on, is using my experience to guide you and say, this is what I found in this situation, and this is where the solutions are, or this is what we need to do, and actually suggesting how to resolve issues, how to progress, and how to move forward. So that's just a quick distinction first between training, coaching, and mentoring. I know some people mix up these terms, but this is how I see that they are different. And when I started in my property journey, first of all, I went to learn lots and lots of different things from lots and lots of different people, because I got distracted by the shiny penny syndrome, because everything looks appealing. this looks appealing, I'm off learning this strategy, that looks interesting over there, I'm spending time doing that. And ultimately what happens is you spend a huge amount of time learning this stuff, which is what I was doing, but not quite getting the results. Because although I was learning the information, i.e. the training, but I wasn't getting the results, because when you take information and then you go and implement it in the real world. So just looking back to Adam's question about service accommodation, Adam, I don't know about your background, but if you've already been doing service accommodation, you understand it a little bit. Yes, I think there is an opportunity there. But if you have a little bit of knowledge, they say that can be a dangerous thing. That is definitely the case when it comes to property, because what you want to do is be able to when you go and implement a strategy, be able to turn to somebody and say, look, I'm facing this challenge here. How do I deal with this here? Rather look at the book or the course material and say, I think they said I should be doing this here. So it's really about providing that support. And to answer your question specifically, what I've done in the past, and I still choose to do today, is to find the people that are really good at doing what I want to do, because I can tap into their experience, I can tap into their knowledge, and then make sure there's somebody that I feel a connection, a synergy with, and somebody I can relate to. That's how I found my mentors in the past, and I still continue to do so today. And the biggest shift for me happened is within the first 2 years, I was struggling to get results, and what a mentor did for me was literally take me by the hand and say, look, stop doing all the things you're doing, put the blinkers on, focus on this one thing, which for me at the time was sourcing, finding really good deals, packaging them up and selling it to other people. Just focus on that. And then when I started doing that, I took the advice and the guidance of my mentor. That's when I started getting very good results. That's how mentoring has helped me, and that's how I found the right mentors. So I hope that's answered your question. I've got one over here that someone's asking, I think on Instagram, which is not showing up on my screen, which my daughter's just handed to me. Someone's asked, how do we get into investment property? And I think that's on Instagram. I think the question is a bit broad. You need to be a little bit more specific. The first thing I would ask is, why is it you want to get involved in investment property? What is it about investing in property that's appealing to you? What's interesting about it? What is it that you want for it to be able to achieve for you? These are kind of questions really you need to answer before you get started in property, so you can then think about which might be the right method, the right strategy. Because let's face it, in property, there are so many different ways to make money. And here's the thing, you can't make money from all the strategies, but you can from some. And what I mean by that is that you need to pick the ones that will be suitable for you, because the time commitment you have, the money commitment that you're able to make, the experience or knowledge you might already have, transferable skills you can bring from whatever it is you're doing right now, existing contacts, connections that you might have, what help and support you have available. All these things are going to impact and affect your results when it comes to property investing. So it's really important that you're picking the right strategy by understanding all of these things, and then picking them once you've taken a holistic view of what it is that you're trying to achieve through property and using the right strategy. So I hope that that helped. So Adam, I love your question here. How many questions would you like to ask? As many as you want, Adam. I'm here for about half an hour on a Monday evening, and I'm just going through the questions in the order they appear. It's unlikely I'm going to be able to get through all the questions, but I'll just work my way through whatever appears on screen, and I'll kind of answer them as they appear. So keep them nice, because I'm reading them as they appear live. So a question from NASA. There you go. You can ask more than one question. How are you finding room rentals at the moment as a result of COVID? So during COVID, it was definitely more of a challenge because many people weren't moving anyway, rightfully so. But again, what we did, we focused on specific markets, mostly NHS, and that worked quite well for us during that time. And as the lockdown was lifted, what we found was there's the pent-up demand of people that were thinking of moving, that have been sitting at home for 3 months, that they were going to move 2 months ago, that haven't yet moved. They have now come forward and start to move. So there's I wouldn't say a rush, but certainly an increased activity for people looking for rooms. So right now we're quite active. We've got lots of rooms that we're marketing as well, but we've got a huge portfolio that we manage of rooms. So it's keeping busy at the moment. It's certainly not what it was, say, 5, 6, 7 years ago when we were doing HMOs. The market was very different then. It's much more competitive now, but it's still active, and we're kind of happy with the way that's going. Hope that answers your question, Nasser. So let me just scroll down. Oops, just jumped a bit. Oh, it's jumped quite a lot. Just 1 second. Where was I? I think this was the next one. So this is a question on YouTube from Shahid. Where would you suggest a good place to get all the relevant contracts for rent-to-rent ventures? So, with rent-to-rent, there's a couple of different ways you can set up the arrangement. And rent-to-rent is something I used to teach about 7 years ago. I used to run some courses on it, and I was surprised at how many people were doing it wrong, and which is why I started sharing some of this knowledge. And I've got some, again, videos on YouTube you can watch in quite detail and some length about the rent-to-rent strategy and how to set it up and how to use it. But primarily, there's 2 different ways you can use this strategy in terms of controlling property. One is that when you talk about a rent-to-rent agreement, it isn't really a rent-to-rent agreement. It's either a management agreement or a lease. So what that means is you either lease the property from the owner, and then now you become the new landlord, and then you're effectively subletting it to whoever's going to be renting it from you. You're acting as the landlord of the tenants that are in the property. So that's one method. The other method is that of a management agreement. And the management agreement is a little bit like what an estate agent, a letting agent would do, where they're managing the property on somebody else's behalf. So the management agreement would be between you and the owner of the property, which is giving you the rights to be able to rent those rooms out, or a short stay, or whatever it is you're doing with that property, to be able to collect the income, take a portion of that, and then pay the rest over to the owner of the property. Now, there's various different circumstances. Again, I'm not going to go into the details of that, because I could spend easily 20 minutes just to try and explain some of the basics. I'd suggest go and watch my videos on YouTube. It goes into more details there. But the one thing I would say is get the contracts drafted properly through a solicitor. Don't scrimp on those, because what you'll find is if they're not drafted properly, they're really not worth the paper that they're written on. And if you get into a situation or a problem, you'll find those contracts are going to be completely useless. If you just downloaded something on the internet, you don't really understand how it's being drafted and is it right for what it is you're trying to achieve. So, for example, simple things like breach of mortgage terms, have those things being dealt with, have those considerations being taken into effect. So, I have contracts that I share with my mentees, all these various contracts that I've paid for, purchased over the years, that drafted for me from solicitors, but I'm sharing them with them as a guidance, as templates, as opposed to, here, I'll copy this, because I think it's important that these things are done correctly and legally, really, to protect you. Think about them as Shahid, as a little bit of an insurance policy. Why do you take insurance out? You take insurance out because, God forbid, if a certain situation happens, that insurance policy will protect you. That's really the purpose of insurance. And these type of documents are a similar thing, in the sense they're drafted to protect your interest, to protect the other party's interest. So, God forbid, if something was to go wrong in that arrangement, you can refer back to the agreement and say, look, this is what we agreed or arranged to do in these particular circumstances. So you've taken those into consideration, and it will protect your interest. That's really what they're designed to do. Here's a fellow Saj Hussain with a great name. It says, all right, Saj, I am all right. Thank you so much. I think you've got a question here for me. Hope you're okay. Just a quick question. With the current situation with regards to COVID, rumors are around that it's not a good time to invest. What's your opinion? I guess I've kind of covered that a little bit this evening with Nasser's question earlier on. If you missed it, I suggest jump back and watch the replay, because the replays will stay on whichever platform you're on, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, or Twitter, where I think I've kind of covered the question. So what I'll do is I'm conscious of time, so I'll try, and there's quite a few more questions, so I'll jump into another one. So a second, let me just try and find. So I've got a question here from Stephen. Good day, Saj. Thanks for your time. I'm a 20-year-old uni student located in Coventry who is interested in property investing. What strategy, practical tips would you advise for a newbie like myself to begin their property investing portfolio with limited amounts of money Thank you. So, Stephen, I think great question. A lot of people ask that question, where to start and where to get started. I think first of all, I wouldn't just rush out and try and do any strategy. A little bit like what I was talking about before, it's really, really important to think about which is going to be the right strategy for you. So I'm guessing right now, you know, if you're at uni, you've probably got time, but maybe not a huge amount of money. So you got to think about which strategies are right. Often when people get started in property, and if they've got time but not much money, they generally tend to think about one of the rent-to-rent strategies. That's either rent to HMO or rent to service accommodation, where you're taking the property on as a whole from the owner, and then you're either subletting as rooms individually or the whole property on a short stay, so that you can increase the amount of profit or income that's generated from that property, and then after paying the owner, you're still left with a profit. And the third strategy that's most common for people starting out that have got more time is sourcing. Sourcing is when you're finding deals for other people and charging a fee. That's probably much more tough right now in this market because there's not a huge amount of stock, and it just means it's quite difficult to find very good deals. And if you do find very good deals, you'll find it very easy to sell them. But however, with the market the way it is, particularly with you being local in Coventry, I suspect that may not be so easy to start. I've got another great video on YouTube about strategy. If you ping me a message, I'll try and send you the link. But if you have a look on my channel about finding the right strategy and getting started, hopefully that will give you some guidance and tips there as well. So maybe get one or two more questions in. So I've got a question here from Jamie on YouTube. Hi Saj, some roads in Birmingham have HMOs clustered along them. Is this a sign that the immediate area is saturated or a strong indicator that the road is worth investing? That's a great question, Jamie. So if you see lots and lots of HMOs in one area, does that mean the market's saturated, or does that mean there's a demand? So an analogy that I can share with you, it's like, let's say you're going to set up a little pizza shop, a little pizza restaurant, and you're looking for passing trade. So are you going to go to a busy high street where there's an existing footfall, where you're going to be able to pick up customers from there? Or are you going to go to a quiet side road, which might be a little bit cheaper in terms of your rent or to set up, but actually might be a lower footfall, and you're going to have to market a lot harder to bring people to you? Well, actually, there is no right or wrong answer. There's so many other things to take into consideration. And it's very similar with HMOs as well. So for instance, if you're doing, say, student lets, and let's say you mentioned Birmingham, if you're in Birmingham, then really you're going to want to be very close to one of the university, especially with the amount of new build student buildings that are going up. It's really important that you're in what I call the primary areas, very, very close to the university, so that you're not going to struggle to let those rooms. If you end up being the other side of town, away from the main university campuses, then what you'll do is you'll find it'll be much more difficult. Just bear with me just 1 second. Sorry about that. So if you're in one of the main areas where the students are, you're going to find it so much easier to let the property. If you're doing professional lets, if you're in Birmingham, you know, your primary areas such as Edgbaston, Harborne, Moseley, Kings Heath, Erdington to some extent, these are the areas traditionally where you'll find a lot of professional HMOs. And these areas I like to be in because I know there's an established demand. However, at the same time, I venture out into other areas that are not your traditional HMO areas, but I normally will create an outstanding product there. What I mean by that is an amazing looking HMO, and then I market very hard to bring people into those. So there's, you know, there's ups and downs on both, and there's no right or wrong answer, but hopefully I've given you a little bit of indication that there's two sides to this. So I'll try and squeeze one more question in before we finish. Thank you so much, Jamie. Let's see if I can find. So I've got a question here on LinkedIn, which is Ashia. Hi, is it a good time to sell a house? This would be a nice short answer. Absolutely, yes, it's a good time to sell a house because the demand is fantastic right now. So there's a few properties that we're selling at the moment, and I'm really doing what I can to get them to market as fast as I possibly can, because right now there isn't enough stock in the marketplace. So the properties are selling there's a great demand. There's a great demand right now, so you will not struggle to sell your property if it's A, well presented, and B, correctly priced. What I mean by correctly priced is that it's not massively overpriced, so it's a fair price for what it is. Yes, you can push it a little bit, but don't get too crazy in terms of the asking price, because sometimes what will happen, an agent will come along, or you'll speak to a few agents, and let's say, keep the numbers simple, let's say it's £100,000 property typically, and somebody else will come along, an agent, that might say, we think you should market this as 110 because there's lots of demand. And unfortunately, it's a little bit of a tactic some agents will use, not all, but some agents will use, where they do that just to be able to list your property, to get it onto their books. And they do that knowing full well it's very unlikely your property will achieve 110. But when a property comes to the market, it's the first week and a half, is when it's hot, when it's a new property, people are looking to buy, they'll be all over it, and they'll make a decision very quickly whether it's for them or it's not. And if it's for them, if it's been well presented and it's been priced right, you should be able to sell that property very, very quickly. If 2 weeks have gone by and you haven't had an offer, the main thing probably is that the price is not right, it's probably too high, and it's put people off. So people won't come in with a low offer. Sometimes they're just too embarrassed to do that, so they'll just walk away and you won't get the offer. And what happens, you lose that excitement that happens when a property comes to the market. So don't necessarily go for the highest price, make sure it's sensibly priced. Yes, if it's £100,000 property, you went for 102 or 103, it's probably fine, but don't go for 110. In that example, it's way too much, and you'll struggle to sell the property. And also there's price points as well. When people are searching online like Rightmove and Zoopla, they're looking at certain price points. So prices up to 100,000, up to 125,000, 150,000. When they put that search criteria in, you want to be able to be within a range that's going to capture the widest audience for you. So look, Ashi, I hope that was useful. Hope you found that useful. So those that are watching, apologies, I'm running over a little bit. Thank you so much for taking the time out with me. Remember, I'm here every Monday evening answering your questions about property investing. Make sure you also visit my YouTube channel, where I'm building up the vlogs about what I'm doing. Let me know in the comment section here, or message me directly on the platform about what you'd like to see more of, and I'll do my very best to help do that. Thank you so much.